Thanks everyone for joining us in another episode of Flip the R's. In this series, we have spoken to a lot of prominent HR thought leaders, influencers, to understand their thoughts around the whole recognition and reward space, and on a broader level, the employee engagement space, how they see it today, how they see it evolving in the future. But if I take a step back, why did we start this series of Flipping the R's? So almost every decent sized company has some kind of rewards and recognition programs. But somewhere along the way, the rewards has become the focus. And it has become more focuses around the automation, about the reward values. It's a very tactical play. It has not become a strategic initiative. If you think about it, no one really started an R&R program to give $100 more to some employee. The idea behind the recognition program was to recognize people for their efforts they have put in beyond their job description. But it has ended up becoming the rewards becoming the hero and recognition playing a supporting role. Is it the right thing to do? Is it the best way to do it? We don't think so. And I'll give you a small analogy, which I keep on giving to a lot of people, is around, you get invited to a dinner party, nice food, nice company, nice drinks there. At the end of it, do you want to give $100 to the person because you felt that was the amount of, a cost for the host? Or do you want to give a $20, $30 bouquet of flowers? Which has the higher impact? Which has the right impact? We feel the $100 would actually create a lot of negative impact. So in the same way, we feel that we need to bring back the focus on recognition. Recognition has to take the center stage, and rewards has to be the token which is supporting the recognition part of it. And that's why we say flip the R's. Instead of becoming a rewards and recognition program, it should be a recognition and rewards program. And today I have with me Michael Piker to discuss on this and exchange our thoughts around this space. I'm excited to welcome Michael on the show. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you. It's delighted to be here.
Let me give a quick introduction. He's the Vice President of Global Total Rewards at Shiseido and a recognized leader in HR, innovation, DEI, and AI-driven strategy. Michael's work is all about transforming reward systems to meet the needs of tomorrow's workforce. He also serves as a board advisor and a university lecturer, bringing deep insight into the future of work and strategy. Now, once again, welcome, Michael. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an interesting discussion with your varied experiences and across different geographies. It's going to be pretty interesting. But I don't think I've done justice to the introduction. Maybe you can talk about some of the interesting areas where you are working on and what are you seeing in that space?
So I've been fortunate. I learned from my father, actually. 36 years in 9 countries, in 8 different companies, across multiple different leaders in the world. I very much believe your ethos of what you just described on flipping the R's, which I've done my whole career. I believe that, frankly, reward is stuck in the past, and we need to up the focus on recognition and bring down a little bit the pure obsession around pay. And I can give many examples of that. But and culturally, of course, how that plays out. I've lived in, for example, Tatoeba in Japan or Switzerland, has a very different impact. Right now I live in Tokyo, and before I was in London. So the context of the industry in which you operate, the country and culture in which looks or observes reward and recognition is slightly different. And I'm very cognizant of that. So that's just a very brief. I'm kind of a global gypsy moth, you could call me.
It's so interesting, and you brought that. You mentioned culturally. I see at the base level. I think again go back to the Maslow's hierarchy. I mean, everyone needs recognition. Okay? After your basic hygiene factors like your salary, your safety, your policies, and all, recognition is what drives most people. Of course, for some people it is the purpose. I mean, for most people it is the purpose, but that's there. I think just before that is the recognition. But culturally, I've also observed. I mean, I've not worked in. I mean, I've worked in UK, I've worked in India and the US. I've seen some difference on that, but I've seen a difference more on the rewards part of it rather than the recognition part of it. For example, in Europe, I mean, that's my experience. Is like, no. It's you can't give rewards. It's not the good idea, and government also doesn't give you any tax breaks on those rewards kind of things. There in the US, it's almost like they're expecting a reward. Okay,
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's where I'm from originally. Yes.
and maybe if you think about the tipping culture, right? I think that's the rewards. I mean, in a way, if you can think about it, it's the rewards which is expected on that. But now that you're in Japan, I mean, I have zero idea on how the whole R&R space is viewed there. I mean, in your company or in a sort of broader industry, I mean, how do they view the recognition space?
Yeah, and Japan versus, like you said, Europe versus US. Japan is less focused on quantum. It's more about we in Maslow's hierarchy, right? So the extent to which you collectively view it culturally agnostically as opposed to hierarchically. So pay grading is hierarchical, but the quantum of pay, as you know, in Japan is much less than Europe and much less than the US. But building on your point, I mean, recognition is the foundation of a human-centric workplace. And like you said, in Japan, belonging, engagement, purpose, longevity in your career path is very much the norm in this beautiful culture. Whereas in, of course, the US, people tend to hop around frequently. Europe is somewhere in the middle. So I don't only focus purely on recognition and reward. You've got to overlay the cultural context lens, plus the industry in which you operate in. I work in beauty, so I work in Shiseido, 153-year-old brand, super famous, but the operating margins are slightly lower. So we can't afford, like the US, frequent reward. We've got to recognize non-monetarily, and that's okay. But in the context of Japan, you recognize the group rather than the individual. Whereas in the US, I know you know this, and in Europe, it's more individually focused. So one size simply does not fit all. It has to be very nuanced and very tapered.
No,
that makes sense.
Absolutely. And when you say this now, recognizing the whole group, I mean, normally almost every result or every outcome in a corporate is a group of people. It is never an individual which is there. And Japanese culture, of whatever I know, I can understand why the focus is on the group recognition there. Yeah. So and let me just zoom out a little bit on that. Talk about the whole engagement space, okay, and not just from a Japanese lens, but because you've worked in global across the globe. I mean, what does the future of employee engagement look like? I mean, today with all the uncertainty of jobs, of the new technologies which are coming in, and of course the geopolitical stuff which is there, this whole employee engagement space. I mean, is it relevant? There should people be just happy that they have a job? Okay, so the pendulum keeps on swinging, right? Sometimes at COVID time, it became a very employees kind of a market, and everyone was doing everything for the employee. Today, it has swung. I don't know to what extent it has swung to that it is an employer's market. Jobs are not safe in the future. So if jobs are not safe, why do I need to engage my employees? They are anyway not going to leave me. I mean, this is one perspective which is there. That is, they're going on that. So how do you see, I mean, has it changed? Do you see that there's some impact of the employee engagement space? And how do you see it in the next few years?
Fantastic question, my friend. Engagement tends to be retrospective when it perhaps should be prospective or predictive. We all do you've been in, I've been in corporates, that annual engagement, net promoter score. Then you build your classic people agenda around the voice, what you hear, and then hopefully the emotional connection makes them stay and stick and they're happier. There's nothing wrong with that, but been around for, God, 20, 30 years, that model.
Mm-hmm.
And with folks that come and go frequently, so X's, Y's, millennials, it's a given. And lifetime employment simply doesn't exist anymore, unlike Japan, where to some extent it does. So to get to your more intellectually interesting question is what is next and what does it look like? And I look at it as sort of emotional episodic vignettes. You dip in emotionally to a company, like in my case, I like beauty brands. I like skincare and sun care because I use those products. So frankly, I joined not because of the money. I joined because emotionally, philosophically, it gives back to society. It's something I use in my daily regimen when I wake up in the morning, the 4-step process. And so when I transpose that across, for example, 30,000 people in my company, more often than not, when I look at our engagement, it's not money, it's not manager, it's not workplace, it's product, it's emotional connection. And that's a very interesting dialectic to dip into. And an engagement survey will not pick that up, theoretically. So you've got to look at it through a different lens. So to some extent, I'm not saying engagement surveys are dying, but I don't think it's the right question, because then you're trying to predicate it on somebody that you want to stick around for a long time, and they're not. So why don't you focus on amplifying why people actually join and what they find that's fun? And fun is a very emotional, extrinsic factor that's different than engagement.
Right.
If you follow, I know you're following where I'm going. So it's a very different lens to apply to this problem solving.
Right. But do you see? I mean, I picked up one thing which I'll pin it right now. I'll come to the retention part of it, but and not just Japan. Okay, I mean, from your experience globally, I mean, do you think HR is thinking not focusing on engagement now, or will not start, or will not be getting so much involved in engagement going forward there because of people will come and leave kind of thing. So why to focus on that? There's enough employees out there in the market, at least for the next couple of years. Do you think there's some thought process changes there happening?
Yeah, I mean, I see an inflection shift just very simply in high level. I've worked in 8 different industries, as I said, and FMCG and pharma and gambling and tobacco look at it very differently. I'm in beauty now. So where it's going is, like you said, it's more, well, first of all, the HR people function has to reconstitute what its purpose and mission is. And it historically had been talent development, talent management, and engagement, right? We talked about reward is more transactional. Given you've got this disruption with Gen I agents, it's coming big time, like a tsunami that's in your face. And so my postulation here is to amplify, for example, curatorial learning. You self-learn without somebody telling you how to learn. You choose your employer opportunistically rather than you waiting for talent acquisition to find you. So the pendulum has swung back to the employee to actually own, earn, grow, and progress their career at their pace and space. If they want to be wealthy or they want to be emotionally focused, that's okay. So these traditional HR instruments they're using for a workforce that is actually diametrically very different. They don't want to work for you 20 years. They want to work for you 3 years. Right. Then they want to go somewhere else. And like me, they're going to cross oceans and cross industries with the bat of an eye. And pension plans and retention bonuses, those don't work anymore. Yeah. So you have to. So it's a very disruptive, interesting time for HR to rethink its purpose. True. And these issues really have to be tackled. Like, the traditional Ulrich model instruments don't necessarily apply anymore in an AI-led world.
Right.
Intellectually.
No, I think this is a very important point. The metric which we are measuring, right? that, hey, does my engagement lead to retention? I think that's a wrong metric to even measure retention. I think. And I give this also analogy. So I say, like, hey, you're in a relationship. Uh, you might separate at some point of time, but as long as you're in the relationship, be in love, right? I mean, after that, you can move out. Okay, that's fine. And that love is the engagement. So I'm working with Shiseido today, and I have to be in love with my work. Okay, I
Yes.
have to be, as you are. I mean, as you think, having the
Yeah.
fun in work, right? Tomorrow, after 1 year, you might leave. Okay,
Right.
but within that period, that engagement is very much required. So I mean, I'm just not contradicting. I'm just putting an opposing view to what I said. Yes, it is. It might be an employer's market. You can hire people anytime you want. People are job security is an issue for at least for the next 1 or 2 years, and people will still stick with you because you're measuring the retention thing. But are they engaged with you? And why I think engagement is becoming more and more important today. Why? Because of you cannot describe a job today. Okay, you say that this is the JD, this is the 1, 2, 3 tasks you have to do. You
Exactly.
have to be innovative. You have to come up with, okay, we need to do something different. Okay, Gen AI, this is coming. How do I utilize this? You cannot put a job description there, Michael. Your job description is, okay, one Gen AI project this week. Okay, you can't put it. It's like almost you have to think, you have to connect the different dots and come up with something. And you will do that only if you're engaged
Yes.
there.
Yes.
Before Gen AI, before maybe even COVID or something, you had well-described tasks. That was your job. You do it. That's it. Okay. I think engagement is becoming more and more important now. Okay, because I cannot describe my anyone's job right now. Okay, every 6 months it will keep on changing. There. So that's my view on employee engagement.
Yeah, I mean, if you are able to give monetary and non-monetary, like flip the R's to your point, recognition that's frequent, it's measured, it's focused, and it's real, most importantly, it's felt. Then that matters, and that shifts the pendulum to, wow, they really like me, and I'm going to stay and stick, and there's a purpose for me being here. That's will always remain as a human condition. The human condition likes to be loved, it likes to be felt, and it loves to have a fun place to go to work. That will never change. So your hypothesis, 100% congruent to where I observed in my career. It's how do you do that at scale? And like you said, we over-index on the stuff I design, like bonus, stock, pension, salary. But those are very tactical, tactile instruments where you want to have the connection and the engagement, like you said, through frequent recognition. And I've done that, and I teach my teams and the companies I worked at that money doesn't solve everything. And so you've got to allow within your quiver of the reward team around the world recognition as to play of your role, and I have to rewire their headset to think that bonuses don't only matter. I have to reteach my reward teams each time to say that recognition is equally important.
Cool.
And this is how so, where so with this platform in this context. You'd be surprised. Reward people are wired for stuff in the past, not for the future.
Yeah.
And the cobbler's children syndrome, HR is partly responsible because we think in the past, not the future.
And I hope that's changing, and I see that a little bit, at least from the senior leaders, they're thinking in certain different way, and sometimes you need a shock to bring about a change in the thinking, and I think the shock has come in now.
I mean, think about agentic AI. I talk around the world about this. If you become, in effect, a mental chatbot that's smarter than a ChatGPT chatbot, then you can stay ahead of the 5.0 that's coming in the releases to keep relevant, and that you keep your job, you stay relevant, and most importantly, the human factor is still factored into how you, like you said, your job description expires in 2 minutes when the AI pumps it out on LinkedIn. So you've got to actually re-equip yourself every day to stay relevant. Sure. And it's skill-based, it's not role-based. So recognition is linked to, obviously, skill, and they're congruent to each other. the more people can think like that, then actually the emotional connection becomes more real.
True. No,
So
I agree with it. I think someone actually, I heard somewhere that intelligence is now being commoditized. Okay.
absolutely, 100%.
So no one is super intelligent. I mean, see,
Yeah,
average by definition is most people are average, right? So it is that the whole, I mean, the 2 year experience guy and a 20-year experience guy, from the knowledge point of view, are almost going to be at the same level. Of course, the domain knowledge, the software, the human angles, all those things are different. It takes experience on that. But otherwise, now when you have a 2 year old experienced person having the same kind of support, like a help with that AI agent, which is there, now how do you think of your talent, okay, on that? How do you put those people? I mean, earlier you needed someone who had 15 years of coding experience to be put on certain role. I think actually a 2 year guy knows as much coding as a 15-year-old guy.
totally, absolutely.
So how do you now arrange? I mean, I'm not talking about rewards and recognition as specifically. I'm talking more on the works, whole workforce kind of planning and designing. This is it's going to be very interesting. And in your introduction, you talked about AI stuff. I mean, I'd love to hear some more stuff around the AI space, what you have seen, and need not be specific to our recognition. Anything. What are
Yeah,
you seeing?
HR. Yeah, well, it's coming in as a tsunami, which is really exciting. I teach at NYU and I teach at various universities as well. So basically, think about, for example, I had Anna Tavis over from NYU at Shiseido University, and she talked about curatorial chatbots that are self-coaching. So if you think about curated learning, for example, to stay relevant in an AI world, you're using a bot to actually suggest and prompt learning interventions for you, but you need to be smarter than the bot to know where it's not suggesting and prompting you. But in learning and development, in the AI space, the disruption tsunami is massive. If you think about talent acquisition, which started with Unilever with chatbots, you never talk to a human until stage 3. That's been around 15, 20 years. But super exciting. ATS, and you got LMS, curated learning, and L&D. And then if you look at talent progression and talent marketplace, what Josh Burson talks about, that's fright for disruption. And it's great because you can look at workforce planning linked to an actual people marketplace real time. And then how do you deploy talent on demand? That's coming big time through AI use cases, and it's super exciting. And then if you elongate that to how do I get my own coaching, the coaching curricula that's agentic AI now is so advanced that you can constantly stay ahead of the skill curve every day through self-learning. And the degree to which the orchestration of that and the people function can do that at scale is something that is super exciting. And then you get into the classic other stuff like OD, workforce design, because you have large language model data sets that can look at mass people data and draw inferences from that. And then look at buy and build analysis, which is super cool. And then where do you drop your talent in and why, and how do they stay, and how do you do the retention? So the disruption tsunami that's coming to people function is hugely exciting. And in my stupid little area of reward, it's so stuck in the past. I talk constantly about, for example, real-time market pricing. How do you produce a job offer? How do you do a promotion? And you use tools and tech rather than people, because you can do that now without the help of people. I can use a tool to do that. And it's a wake-up call to my profession to say, if you don't do this and stay relevant, you're going to lose your job. So across the HR function, it is massively interesting now. And I work with lots and lots of platforms. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
It is definitely exciting. It sometimes also causes anxiety because you don't exactly know for the next 6 months what's going to come out there. But it's also exciting. I think the importance of HR. I mean, in some conferences I've heard about, all agents will come in. So why do we need HR? Most of the HR stuff is more of tactical stuff, right?
Yeah.
Giving some policies out there, leaves, some stuff which is doing that. But I think HR is going to become more and more important. Otherwise, there is no differentiation between companies. If you think that everyone's an agent, then everyone's
Everybody's the same.
right? So it's the people who are going to make a difference, and who can influence the people or who can really engage the people is HR. They will, of course, get much more time. I mean, today, maybe 70% of your 80% of your time goes in those tactical, query resolving, this thing, lead management, all those things. You will get free. And then you can really focus on the people thing. What was the original concept of an HR, right? To manage people, to make them grow in the company. I think the focus of the importance of HR is going to be much more important in the future, because people are going to be much more important, to make any differentiation between companies.
Yeah, exactly as you rightly said, sir, is people won't stay for very long. So you need to make it fun, bursts of fun quickly and repeatedly. And you're right. So you democratize and you downstream the tactical people stuff to agents, platforms, and agentic LLMs. And then we get to focus on the cool stuff at the top, which is, what type of workforce do we want to be to remain different than, like, for example, I work in beauty. So I have L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, and LVMH as competitors. How do I distinguish our people play opposite my direct competitors? And it's the same for any industry. How is it uniquely Shiseido, in my case, Tokyo history across the globe that's innately Shiseido? And that you can't copy that. So if you do that at pace and scale, then HR has actually done a really good job, because then the people really do want to stay because it's fun. So recruiting, talent management, org design, learning and development, reward will remain, no question. It's how do you get the tactical stuff done by, as you said, agents that elongates those that have the intellectual horsepower to play at the top of the house in HR and play on the big stuff.
Right.
And that's like workforce scenarios, learning curation, talent marketplace. These are big things you got to solve with a human brain. A chatbot will never be able to take that away from us. In my postulation.
Yeah, I totally agree with it, but I'm also keeping a very open mind, like what it is. About a year back, I was convinced that that agents will not have empathy. Who brings in the empathy? The people bring in the empathy. So I was a medical professional. He said, like, no, you will. We bring in that empathy and the care with our patients. I said, like, have you ever seen a doctor in a hospital? I mean, how much time he has? He's like 2 minutes for you and then moves on.
2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes.
2 minutes, right? And actually, agents are having more empathy now, because they are. This thing, they're like so supportive of you, and they're like almost trying to help you, and they're trying to make you fall in love with them, right? That this is how it should be. Very comforting. So I feel the empathy part also will be, taken care of by the agents. But I mean,
is very much in vogue to use an agent to have a personal coach. So this is what, again, we teach at the universities, and students are like, really? You can go to an agent rather than go to a live human to coach you? And he's absolutely. They have the time, they have the emotional connection, but you have to be somewhat, you have to think about, are they still curatorially telling you the right content that you should believe 100% everything they're saying? And you have to be a little skeptical. So the human brain has to say, no, I don't necessarily agree with that. Right. But the coach from an AI agent will become the future. It's no doubt.
True. But you bring an interesting point about, you have to be sure, because they are so much trying to be like good to you that they don't give you any opposing view, which might be good as a shrink, but not as a professional coach. Professional coach needs to challenge you on that.
And then they remember, and you also have to be cognizant, whatever, if you use a public agent, that information about you does sit in the public domain. So if it's
Right.
confidential, you have to be cognizant that it's not as private and confidential it is with a personal coach.
Right.
So data privacy issues, confidentiality, you got to be quite cognizant of that.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of exciting stuff is happening there. So coming back to the recognition, see how we see recognition part of it is that it can actually drive behaviors and value. Okay.
Correct.
That if you recognize the right kind of behavior, the right kind of values, and it gets propagated among the company, right?
Correct.
That is the main purpose of recognition. Of course, one purpose is to recognize that you have done the effort, but to also make it visible to everyone that this kind of efforts, this kind of behavior is recognized in our company, right? Now, every company has some kind of values and behaviors which they put up on the in the conference room, in the hallways there, right? But most and maybe one mail from the CEO or CHRO every year going out about the values. But they don't see, it might be too abstract for many people. Okay. They don't see examples of, okay, what is this behavior where they say customer centricity? I mean, what? I of course, answer my customer support queries. So is that customer centricity? No. Michael has done this thing because of this thing. This is what the customer centricity value is. And you see, oh, this is where it's going beyond the job description, on customer centricity. They see an example of those behaviors and value. And why I'm trying to say this is that our hypothesis is that recognition is a very powerful tool to drive the behaviors and values. Today in HR, there are most are systems of records. Okay. The systems of records are not going to influence behavior and values. You have the communication team sending out some information, that's fine. But how do you do that? And for that to happen, but it's not a short-term game. It's a slightly long-term thing, and that is the strategic importance of recognition. And that is where
it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. Yeah.
And that is where the CXO level has to take it up. Right now, R&R is not a CXO priority. Okay, it is, as I said, it's a tactical play. Mid-manager, have a program, do this thing, give a budget. That's it, right? It is not a strategic thought process or an initiative which is being taken up by CXOs. But you as a senior leader, I mean, what do you? I mean, you have talked about the importance of recognition. Actually, let me add one more point to this.
Sure.
It is about. See, when you have to do OD, compensation design, there are enough expertise and experience out there. Within yourself, you will have the experience. If you need outside expertise, you go to a HR consulting company.
Yeah,
they'll right? But in the whole R&R space, there is not much experience because there's not been frameworks around this thing. Okay, too much frameworks. While we are working on something, but even the external expertise, when we go to this consulting companies, we don't see that they have a thought process or a view on how to design an R&R practice on that. So it is like, okay, there's not experience, there's no expertise, and I'm not sure how will recognition be useful. So it never goes to the CXO's mindset. You as a senior leader, I mean, what do you think about it? Do you think there is something which the CXOs need to think about?
Yeah, and I would surmise and observe humbly, in some of the firms I've worked in, thankfully, it has been at CXO level. So I'll give you an example. In tobacco and gambling, I've been in FMCG and high tech. Can't mention the names, but you probably can figure it out from my LinkedIn. So usually recognition starts, as you know, sir, with birthdays and anniversaries and kind of quarterly awards, which is kind of boring. People don't really get very energized by that. But what I'm trying to articulate is building daily recognition into your daily flow of work at the CXO level. So in my other companies, we've imbued that, like you said, from the top into your ways of working every single day that you show up at work and you log in. So that comes in the form of quick shout outs of meetings, peer-to-peer platforms where you recognize with money or non-monetary. There's ways where you can have feedback loops right away on Teams, as you know.
Yeah.
The best storytelling is through stories and cases that you recognize real-time, stronger collaboration, and you reinforce it as a loop of collaboration. So it's akin to like, it shouldn't be fireworks that are rare. It should actually be sunshine that should be steady and life-giving every day.
Yeah.
That's how you make it stick. And that's been my mantra at all the companies I've worked at. I want sunshine every day. And so if you think through that mindset, and the CXOs engage in it, then you shift to very much a recognition-led culture. It takes about 3 or 4 years to shift that paradigm, but it's absolutely possible. And particularly prevalent in the US, Europe, Switzerland. I've lived in the UK many times. So those listed companies there are very proficient at daily recognition, and they're really good at it.
Very, very interesting analogy, the fireworks and the sunshine. So the fireworks happen in every company because there's this annual day which is there, then there's 20 people are being recognized. But you are a 1,000 people company, it's impossible that there were only these 20 guys. Yes, 20 guys were exceptional, but then there have been many people, maybe another 100 people who have gone beyond their, I keep on coming back to the job description thing, but yeah, they've gone beyond that. If you don't make it continuous, and like as a culture of recognition, it doesn't, I mean, it's almost like, who doesn't like recognition? Okay.
Of course, everybody's love. It's a basic human need in Maslow. Everybody likes to be told you're great. They love that. They like sunshine every day.
Absolutely, and that it needs on a regular basis. Okay, you can't have like one day in the whole year something is given, and if it doesn't come in daily, it's very I mean that's the potential which is there. Okay? On like how to use recognition strategically, particularly now that we have to engage employees more, we have to really be a people-centric companies now. And actually, just one more data point which I wanted to add. I was reading through the Gartner hype cycles.
Yeah, I like Gartner very much. Yeah,
and the Gartner bullseye, which they've stopped. Right? No, they have actually. So on the hype cycle, the RNR was 2 years back. It was showing up as the trough of disillusionment. Okay, because why? Because you were doing rewards. Okay, and when you do rewards, that is only so much you can recognize people because you are limited by budgets. Right.
Correct. Non-monetary, think about not money, but something else. Exactly.
As soon as you do money, you are limited. This is the amount of budget you have. Right? You cannot recognize.
So the three things from Gartner, Burson, and the academic research is recognize openly and often. So it's a basic precept, but frequency of recognition, like you said, is a basic human innate need. Second is model, they say, gratitude regardless of hierarchy. So if the CEO is telling an engineer in Madras or Bangalore or Chennai, that's great, even more powerful, right, than your boss. And we do that across the companies I worked at. And the third one is normalize peer-to-peer recognition. So your peers say, you did a great job and you did a great job, but it's okay for peers to say to each other, and it's not competitive. Then hierarchy breaks down, you have more systemic recognition, and it's more like a flywheel. It just keeps going with the sunshine. So that's my metaphor. Make it like a flywheel.
And it has to be. I mean, I think, and you're right on the competitiveness. I mean, once you give monetary, like, why did you give Michael $100 and me $80?
Right.
Right.
And people have points, and it's shadowing the CEO for a day and learning about how the company's run. Right. There's so many smart ways, experiential learning that is more powerful than money. But you do need data. Data is your secret weapon, as you highlighted in some of the pre-work, and measure what matters. So whatever you do, the degree to which there's a correlation between this and as an outcome, you can then show the business impact of that, the ROI, and then you get more CXO focus on it because it's business driven, not a people driven thing. And that's how you really turn the dime on this.
I'm sure. So on the Gartner thing, what I wanted to predict was that it was saying that 2 years back the trough of disillusionment, it was there, and it says 5 to 10 years to maturity. But
Yes.
in last year's the hype cycle, HR tech hype cycle, it said 2 to 5 years. Okay, so in 1 year it moved from 5 to 10 years to 2 to 5 years. So that is one
Right.
data point. Like it is maturing. Okay, so
It is maturing.
About it, which is a good sign for us, vendors like us, that people are thinking about it. 2 years back, again, I remember this data which said that only 20% people had companies had some kind of platforms for R&R.
Yes.
I mean, everyone does some R&R, but digital platforms was only about 20 to 25% of the companies had that in the US market. And the US is a very mature market in this, but still they had only 25%. That has gone to about 40% in last
40 to 50% now. It's a huge uptick.
Yes,
and huge. And there's about 10 really big global players in the market. There's one particularly huge one. Won't mention names, but when you measure then, regardless of who you use, the frequency and distribution we talked about, engagement surveys we've already debated. What's more interesting is the correlation with business productivity, retention, and well-being. So if you're in a fun place that's cool and you love going, typically your well-being thrives and your productivity goes up. And that can be measured. And there is data to correlate. So business leaders love to see metrics like that, rather than just classic HR stuff, which is a little bit boring. So my postulation here is have it business led with a business KPI, and then you get an audience that really listens. That's my tip. And leaders that spot gaps, meaning somebody that's under-recognized, or our managers equally recognizing the same people all the time. You've got to spot this carefully, because there's patterns of behavior where some managers might just only focus on people they like. And it's got to be democratic. And those voiceless folks that perhaps don't speak up as much, but really have a huge impact, I call those the under-recognized. Those are probably even more important. The silent voices who really do the hard work. Yeah. That's where the platforms have to really be very cognizant of recognizing the entire populace, not just the ones with the big voices. So that's my call out, is be very, very prodigious about looking for the silent voices.
True. Yeah. No, interesting. So, Michael, interesting discussion. I think lots of areas where we can definitely dive more into, but we have the time.
Hopefully it's useful. And in India, is your observation in the Indian market that recognition is still on a journey?
I think I actually see the Indian market being a slightly more mature from a recognition point of view. Okay, I think it's also the whole culture thing. Somewhere, for example, I'll give you examples in the RFPs in the US. One of the questions, I mean, most questions are around, okay, is the delivery of the merchandise going to happen on time? How will you provide the customer support if the delivery of the merchandise is going to happen or not? What is the catalog you have? That seems to be the more focus on the questions in the RFP.
Typical questions.
And I see more of the questions around, okay, what is the roadmap for your recognition thing? How much engagement can you get? What are your previous metrics on recognition usage and all those things which is happening there? Somewhere I see a little bit, which is a little surprising, but again, my data points are limited in the US market. I mean, while we are there in the US market, it's early days for us. So I hold it, but this is the initial observations which we have seen.
No, thank you for sharing. That's cracking the US market is tricky because it is a very crowded place and space. I would observe, again, Switzerland, France, UK, and US are quite crowded. Focusing on the emerging markets would be probably a fantastic play. Middle East, Africa, Latin America, fantastic opportunity. I've lived in those places. Absolutely. There's a burning desire to go down this and a voracious appetite.
What you're saying about the US, we see a huge potential. Okay, there. Even though, as I said, like as the Gartner data says, that even though lots of players are there, there's still a lot of white spaces there. Okay, greenfield opportunities are still there, but once you start focusing on the catalog and the delivery and the customer support, what happens is that any existing client will say, okay, should we replace our existing vendor with Vantage Circle? Give me your catalog. Give this thing, and then like, what's going to be differentiation in the catalog? I mean, you are going to give the Apple phone. I'm also going to give the Apple phone, right?
And everybody has a catalog. It doesn't distinguish yourself.
There's no distinction, and there's not enough incentive for the change management to be done, right? I mean, why should I change this thing? The same catalog, okay, save a little bit of money, that's it, right? So, but yeah.
So it could be, I mean, I'm from the US. If you look at sub-geographic, particularly the Midwest and the South, is untapped potential, I would observe. And look assiduously at industry verticals that might be more apt to see a white space opportunity there, would be my quick tip to crack that market.
True. No, definitely love to chat sometimes offline to understand your views on this thing. But interesting discussion, and I think a lot of takeaways and a lot of validation of some of our thought process on that. If you want to add anything, last 1 minute, I mean, I'm okay. Otherwise, I'll just try to summarize.
No, it's very kind of you, sir. No, it's just simply keep doing what you're doing. I've done this 35 years, and money doesn't solve everything. The human condition surmounts culture. Every human being likes sunshine and likes to be recognized. It's simple as that.
Lovely. What I'm going to take away from your discussion of the sunshine and the firecrackers, I think that's a great take it. So from my point from the discussion, again, I think what it reiterates is that in this AI world going forward, people are going to become more important, okay, not less important. It's going to become more important, and people functions, the HR, has to really step up their game and take up real engagement with the people. And I think at the end, what you talked about, that driving, it has to be business recognition programs, particularly has to be business KPI, should be connected to it. Outcomes should be connected to the business KPIs there. Governance is going to be very important in the platforms. If you have, how do you make sure that it is not, people don't lose hope on this, because some people are actually misusing the system. The governance is going to be very important. And finally, I think the CXO level has to think about this recognition systems or the R&R systems to drive those behaviors connected to those business outcomes, drive behaviors and values, because this can play it's a low-hanging fruit which is there, which can actually drive those behaviors, and you need to constantly drive different behaviors at different times in the near future, which is going to come. But yeah, so I think that's a nice takeaway for all our listeners. And thank you for joining us today.
It was a pleasure and honor to join you today, sir. Thank you.